we going hard. Lights, magic sparks, and you might come pass across the 6'4" chick flinging off ice spots with a shot. You thought that's Candace Park. She may be your lady Katie, past the Christy, cool as the AC, the Heights princess, no right to defend it. She driving like a line in the spot, but she take risks. Wnba sparking, loving the best 'cause they all so hard. Tonight we going hard. We like.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome into the LA Sparks 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for the WNBA and your two-time WNBA champion Los Angeles Sparks. Back with you folks after what's been a pretty chaotic last couple of weeks here on WNBA 365 for July the 16th, 2015. Hello again, everybody. Glad to be back. Tom Clear back with you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego, solo for the next hour here. We have two shows with you folks at 10 o'clock and 10:30 this evening. And again, ladies and gentlemen, still a bit somber, folks, but I do want to, before we do get to the games and stuff, folks, want to express my gratitude and my appreciation and thank you, folks, for allowing me a couple days to regain myself after the sudden, shocking news of the death of my great-grandmother at the age of 82 from congestive heart failure suffered on Sunday. Kind of hit me blindsided, like I got hit by a garbage truck almost. I was still sound asleep on Sunday, or Monday morning, I should say, when I got the news. My dad had called me at about 9 o'clock, and I was still a bit dazed trying to get myself out of bed that day, and he called and said, "Hey, I'm coming to get you," because Muma had passed away. So, want to, of course, say thanks to everyone out there for allowing me my privacy and respecting my decision to hold out for the past couple days. 3 days is the minimum or the max you're allowed to take off in California for work of any type. So I took the 3 days to recuperate myself, and I am glad to be back, folks. I know that we've kind of missed a few things in the shuffle here on the network. I know that I've been busy still trying to finish stuff for school. I'm still waiting to hear full confirmation if I'm done. I did receive that I was done last week, so again, just trying to work a few kinks out, and of course, dealing with family problems, of course, is never a good sign either. So again, thank you folks very much for allowing me to have my personal time and space to regather myself and let my family sort of grieve and hold each other a bit tighter after the loss of one of our family members. And just want to say thanks to everyone out there for allowing me to do that, and again, for allowing me to come back here and let me do what I do best. With that, okay, we got through that, folks. Let's get down to business, folks. And again, the tailspin, folks, sadly continues for the hometown LA Sparks as they let another game slip away to Atlanta today from Staples Center in downtown LA. Atlanta comes back to beat the Sparks 76-72. But Dream with the victory, go to 7-8, 2-4 on the road. The Sparks now, yikes, 2-12 and 2-5 at home. By far one of the worst seasons in Sparks franchise history. To the line score for the Dream, 17 in quarters 1 and 3, 18 in the second, and running away with the game in the fourth with 24 for the game total of 76. For Los Angeles, another devastating and another heart-wrenching and pretty much gut-wrenching loss after being up 25-17 after the first quarter, 25 in the first, 10 in the second, 21 in the third, and 16 in the fourth for the final game total of 72. The Dream box score, former LA Sparks Sierra Burdick, 5 points, Erica De Souza, 6 points, Tiffany Hayes, 11, Sydney Carter, no points, and Angel McCautry, 22 points, had a rough day from the field and beyond the arc, but made 12 of 13 free throws, including the final 2. That was the final dagger for LA's loss here today. Off the bench, Anika Henry, 16 points, Mati Ajavon, 2, Erica Wheeler, 4, Shoni Schimmel, 5, and Ronika Hodges also with 5. Off the bench, no one not playing tonight for the Dream tonight was Delisha Milton-Jones, held out again, coach's decision, and Sancho Little also held out, coach's decision. For the 2-12, yikes, 2-12 LA Sparks, Nneka Ogwumike, 19, Jantel Lavender, 20 points in 39 minutes played tonight for her, Mariana Tolo and Aaron Phillips all with 6, and Christy Tolliver all with 8. Off the bench, more of the same, sadly. Jasmine Lister, 1 minute played, no points. Jennifer Hampson, no points. Anna Dabovich, 9 points. And Tamika Johnson with 4. And still nursing injuries is Faria Abdi, left knee. Elena Beard, left foot, DNP. Andrea Hoover, DNP. Coach's decision. The other stats to know, folks, tonight from the ball game, only 2 technical fouls charged in the ball game, 1 for the Sparks for defensive 3 seconds, and 1 technical foul charge to Dream coach Michael Cooper. Today's officials were Amy Bonner, Roy Goldbean, and Jeff Wooten. Total attendance tonight on camp day, 12,567. Time of the game, 2 hours and 5 minutes from the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, California. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost like, where do you start? You know, I think we've kind of come to that point now, 14 games in the year. Where in the world do you start with this LA ball club? And, folks, I think that it's been a very tough season, reminding me vaguely of how bad the Lakers were last year on many levels, ladies and gentlemen. The injury problems, of course, Candace Parker sitting out until after the All-Star break. We'll get to her momentarily. But, folks, you know, it's sort of been... It's been a roller coaster. I mean, where you sat through 7 straight losses, and you thought maybe they finally turned a corner when they got KT back and got Anna Dabovich finally over from Serbia, and they got rattled off 2 wins, and then, you know, they go down to Phoenix, you know, lose them, and of course, you know, some more bad play on the road, folks. I mean, it's been pretty tough if you are a LA Sparks fan, and I'm pretty sure, though, too, that a lot of you non-LA fans are sort of wondering, how in the world is this happening where they have 2 very down seasons? And I know some people may enjoy seeing, you know, LA faltering and going to the wayside, folks. But I'm sure there's some, though, that are like, you know, how in the world is this happening to the LA Sparks? I never thought I'd see this happen. I'm sure some of you out there are. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you know, what can you really contribute it to? The head coach, Candace Parker, the depth. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that LA fans are saying that's why we're losing, folks. And I've already seen posts and read tweets about, you know, is Brian Agler on the hot seat? You know, when you get dealt this bad poker hand, you know, no Tolliver, no Parker for X amount of games, no Dabovich, plus the injury bug gets dealt into your hand. Can you really blame the coach? Okay, maybe you can, folks, for some play calling, whether it's been, you know, that final play against the Mercury last Sunday where they went down in flames in overtime. You know, is it some of the roster procurement? You know, you got a chance to see your second-round draft pick, Sierra Burdick, who you cut the last day of training camp. She had 5 points and has had a great start to her career in Atlanta. And, you know, that happens, of course. You know, I mean, you know, there's so many focal points that I think I've seen from LA fans through social media, through text messages, emails, whatever it may be. I mean, you know, I've seen, you know, people wanting Tamika Johnson away because of her height. I mean, folks, I really don't know what more to really say, sadly. I mean, this has been a complete whirlwind of a season. I know that last year was a bit up and down for a bit, but they got in the postseason. But now it's like, you know, the ship is sinking with every loss. Like, you know, what can you really do? Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm not here to point fingers and, you know, say, and state my case as to, you know, why is, I'm not here to, you know, criticize anybody and say, you know, and not be, you know, and be, you know, the homer pick here for LA. But it's almost like, you know, to the point where I have no idea what to say anymore. I mean, yeah, we saw Jantel Lavender, Nneka Ogwumike put up 20 and 19 points, and they've been the anchor. You know, in spite of that, you know, in spite of having Nneka out for a few games, they've kind of pretty much, folks, they've done their best. Hear me out here. They've done their best to hold the fort down while Candace Parker is taking her time off. And we'll get to her again, folks, briefly here and momentarily. But, you know, in spite of maybe Brian Agler's coaching system, you know, Carol Ross's system worked for a few years, and they brought in puzzle pieces that didn't fit the holes in the puzzle for that system. They bring in a different coach this year, Brian Agler. Same sort of case where some puzzle pieces, like Tamika Johnson, fit right in, where other players that did not play the system have to do a lot of catching up in that span. So, again, I am not here, folks, to point fingers, as much as I may want to. But frankly, folks, even I don't even know where to start pointing fingers. Can you really point fingers at a team that is playing without their star player, for one, that's been dealing with injuries all season, and does not have that closer's mentality with a big lead in a game? We've seen it plenty of times, folks, where the Sparks have had leads, but they squandered it. It's been an ice-cold third quarter, or they just, the gas, they exert so much energy in the first half that gas gauge is already on empty, and you can't refuel at a local gas station to get that fuel gauge back up to full, where they have the full energy to play the full 40. Now, we saw a few complete 40-minute efforts, folks, those first two wins, where they beat the Stars and beat the Shock back-to-back nights on home court. Now, again, obviously, home court has been the only place where the Sparks have won 2 wins out of their 12. The only 2 wins of the year have been at home. So obviously, we know at Staples Center is still a building that a lot of teams have trouble playing in so far this year. But again, frankly, folks, as much as a lot of people want to point fingers at Brian Agler, at Candace Parker, or at the Sparks folks, frankly, I don't even know where to start. You can, of course, we can take your input here, folks, on Twitter, at LA Sparks 365 or at Calimac3. Let me know. I want to know, if you are pointing fingers. Okay, I know that Parker's on everyone's hit list. She's public enemy number 1, sadly. Brian Agler's probably public enemy 1B because of his system and, that he's, coming off a very bad season in Seattle, coming to Los Angeles with a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure from fans to win. So, frankly, if you are pointing fingers, and frankly, I can't blame you because you are entitled to your opinion. But at the same time, though, can you really do it with a team that's 2-12 and has had a lot of misfortune, bad luck this early in the season? Again, I may sound like, folks, I'm making excuses. Trust me, I'm not. I've, deliberated my point here of, can we frankly point fingers? I know that a lot of people are already, have, said their piece about Candace Parker and also voicing out about Brian Agler. But again, frankly, I don't know if you actually can point fingers with a team that has had so much misfortune. They've been, it's basically, folks, the land of misfit toys. That is what LA basically is, folks. And also, I think it's called La La Land, too, because technically this team has been in La La Land for quite some time, trying to get back out of La La Land and getting back on top of the conference. Over to Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. The Dream, they've also been up and down, folks. Again, coming off of an early exit last year, getting spoiled out of there by Chicago as the 4 seed, as the 1 seed last year, getting ousted in round 1. In what was a very weak, what is now a very strong Eastern Conference tonight, folks. Angel McCoughtry, again, who has struggled mightily against the Sparks in her career, especially last year, had a lot of foul trouble in that game. The Sparks won in overtime last year versus Atlanta in late August, where tonight had 22 points, but again, did all of her damage, folks, at the free throw line. She was ice cold pretty much all game from the field and beyond the arc. With the Sparks, though, pressure on her, but also hacks and fouls and slaps on the wrist. And, you send Angel to the line, she will make, 90% of her free throws. That's what happened tonight, folks. So, again, Sparks falter late. 76-72. They'll have 5 days off. They'll take on the Merc in Liberty before they do round out the first half of the year, and frankly, the All-Star break is needed at this point in time. There was one more game, folks, in the WNBA today. The New York Liberty come back to beat the Connecticut Sun at MSG 64-57. The Liberty with the win are now 9-5 and back in sole possession of first place by a couple of games over a few teams in front of them. They're now 6-2 at the Garden. The Sun with the loss are now 7-6 and 4-2 away from Mohegan Sun Arena. The final line score in the ballgame for Connecticut, 11 in the first, 22 in the second, 17 in the third, and 7 in the fourth for the game total, 57 for New York. 12 in the first, 16 in the second, 24 in the third, and 12 in the fourth for the game total of 64. The final box score for the Sun, Camille Little, 5, Alyssa Thomas, 4. Kelsey Bone, 11, Jasmine Thomas, no points, and Alex Bentley with 15. Off the bench, Elizabeth Williams, no points, Kayla Peterson, 2. Chelsea Gray, 9 points, Kelly Ferris, no points, and Shakina Strickland, all with 11 points, and of course, not playing tonight. For Connecticut, Shanae Agumake, DNP knee injury, and Jen Lacey, DNP coach's decision. For the New York Liberty, Swin Cash, 6, Tina Charles, 22 points, Carolyn Swords, 2, Epiphany Prince, 10, and Tanisha Wright with 4. Off the bench for Bill Lambeer's crew today, Essence Carson, 2, Avery Worley Talbot 2 points. Kia Stokes, folks, had 7 points, but a new Liberty franchise record with 8 blocks in the ball game. Candace Wiggins, no points, played in 7 minutes. Sugar Rogers, 3. Brittany Boyd with 6, and Rebecca Allen DMP dealing with a left knee injury in the ball game. There was a couple of techs in the ball game, although for defensive 3 seconds on both the Sun and Liberty, today's officials were Tiara Cruz, Tom Maurer, and Lamont Simpson. Total attendance tonight at the Garden, 8,813. Time of the game, an hour and 58 minutes from Madison Square Garden in New York, New York. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to what has been the bigger story. There is, folks, some bigger news than what you may have heard or what you may not, or what you probably have not heard of from Candace Parker, folks. There was some news today delivered to me on Twitter from a reliable, actually on Facebook from a reliable source who has kind of been on top of this while I've been trying to monitor other things other than the Candace Parker situation with Los Angeles. Folks, there was a video sent to me today, earlier in the day, that was a video shot yesterday from the ESPY Awards. Of course, Candace Parker and Sheldon Williams, of course, attended the festivities yesterday over there at the Microsoft Theater in LA Live. And, folks, I should let you know that the video, or the link to the video that I was sent today, confirm, folks, that it's pretty much a done deal that Candace Parker will be returning. Now, folks, there's a loophole here in this entire saga. Is Parker's quote when asked about this question? Again, she was asked in a brief 30-second video by a local LA media firm asked about returning to the team. She said, quote, "We will start talking after the All-Star break," which means that, in fact, Parker is likely to sign a contract for the second half of the season and will return to the team this 2015 season. Now, in spite, folks, of all the skepticism, easy for me to say, folks, of how skeptic the fans have been about Parker coming back. Now, folks, in another loophole or another wrench thrown in the plans here, what I also was gathered today was now that the Sparks are, in fact, the front runner for the #1 draft pick for the 2015 or 16 WNBA draft, which of course is which is going to be 9.9%, 99.9% of out of 100% chance it will be Brandon Stewart out of the University of Connecticut, who will be going to LA. Now, there was a interesting tweet by Jada Evans sent today. Jada writes for the Seattle Times. She sent out a pretty interesting tweet saying, in regards to the Sparks being 2-12, and right now the top holder of the #1 draft pick for the 2016 draft is, would the Sparks consider drafting Stewart and trying to work a deal out to deal Candace Parker and have Stewart replace her on the roster going forward in the future? Now, folks, I kind of look at it this way. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, you have to remember here, this is not me talking as Candace Parker's #1 male fan and someone who interviewed her back in September of last year, and probably someone that, and I will say, folks, who was a dear friend of mine in the league. But looking at the situation, folks, from a front office and media standpoint, I look at it this way, that whether the fans like it or not, and I know a lot of you out there, I'm not going to mention names, but I know a lot of you out there are dying to have the Sparks deal Candace Parker. Now, again, you are entitled to your opinion as a fan. I respect it 100%. But, folks, I look at it through a different set of eyes. I'm a guy that's a glass half full guy. In spite of the season being the season 2-12, I still feel like the team can turn it around. May miss the playoffs, but they still can have a strong finish going forward towards 2016. Now, I think what's going to happen, folks, is if the Sparks do in fact capture the #1 pick in the lottery, which right now is bound to happen, I think that what's going to occur once Parker does re-sign for the season and for future years is that the Sparks will not deal Parker, but they're going to hold on to her, folks. And in my honest opinion, folks, they will hold on to Parker to play the role of Lisa Leslie to help groom Brianna Stewart for the WNBA. Now, I know it's a long shot, and I know you're saying, Callan, you are crazy, dude. But because I know that Parker does not have rings like I do on my hand. You know, I got 3 of them, soon to be 4, for my collegiate baseball team winning the league title today. But still, though, folks, she's a fantastic player. I mean, in spite of the fact that, you know, folks, let me just say this here. How many great players in every sport that you know of did not win a championship? I can think of Steve Nash, John Stockton, Jason Kidd, you know, Tony Gwynn, you know, a lot of great players, folks, that I can think of, folks, that didn't win titles but stayed with their team and were held onto by their franchise to help groom young talent. That's what I think, folks, is going to happen, in my whole honest, humble opinion, is the Sparks will hang on to Candace Parker. As much as you fans may want her gone, that you hate her guts for sitting out the season and not realizing the entire situation, folks, I think that the Sparks will hang on to Candace Parker to help groom future talent. Now, again, I know that perhaps her ego and attitude, in your opinion, gets in the way sometimes, but I think, though, that in spite of that, I truly think, though, that that is what's going to happen, is that LA will not be doing anything with Candace Parker going forward. And again, folks, you got to remember here, this is not me talking as her #1 male fan or me being biased towards Candace, but as an analyst, someone who deals with, and someone who's dealt with front office before, that is what I would suggest would happen, is you hang on to that veteran player in spite of what their resume may read about no championships or whatever it may be. But I believe, though, that is what's going to happen, is you will see Candace Parker for the future with LA, help grooming future draft picks, a la Brianna Stewart perhaps this year. But again, folks, I think that's what happens. I know that a lot of people want her gone because of what is all transpiring, folks, right now in this season. I don't like to make comparisons, folks, to other teams, but, you know, do you see any other team that's dealing with this nonsense complaining? You know, is Phoenix complaining about not having D? Is Minnesota complaining about not having Janelle McCarville? Is Chicago complaining about not having Sylvia Fowles, folks? You know, I just don't think it's fair, though. As I said this, folks, 2 weeks ago, after the Sparks lost to Washington, is I think it's just unfair, though, that we continue to keep piling this on her. You know, unless you've actually played a sport year-round, folks. And I know that some people have, and they're entitled to that opinion, folks. But again, you know, I just think that, you know, as a fan, I don't think that it's worth the time and energy to continue to, you know, repeat yourself saying, you know, Parker, you know, is soft. You know, she shouldn't be playing this year. You know, let's trade her. But again, folks, like I said before, but again, the Sparks have no control over trading her because, again, they own her rights. And again, she is a core player. Again, she's under that core legislative player where, again, she cannot be dealt and or traded by the Sparks because of her rights and her contract agreement. So again, I just think that, you know, that it's unfair that we continue to keep pumping on the folks. I should mention, though, too, the Sparks in their franchise history have only drafted 2 players out of UConn in their franchise history. Those 2 players, by the way, Jessica Moore from 05 to 08 and Paige Sawyer in 2000. The Sparks have drafted more players out of Tennessee in their franchise history. They have drafted 8 different players from UT in their franchise history, between Nikki Anisicki, Shannon Bobbitt, Deidre Charles, Tasha Fluker, Shamika Holsclaw, CP, and Sydney Spencer. That is the main school that the Sparks love the best, is UT. They've only drafted 2 players in franchise history out of UConn in the entire franchise history, between, again, Jessica Moore from 05 to 08 and Paige Sawyer in 2000 when she played her 1 year with the Sparks. So again, folks, I know that there's a lot that we want to say about Candace Parker, folks, but again, the video clip that was sent to me today, again, the brief interview that lasted 30 seconds, again, Candace Parker scheduled to meet with the Sparks after the break to begin contract talks, and more than likely, folks, whether they like it or not, folks, Candace Parker will be signing that contract to play for the remainder of the 2015 WNBA season. for the LA Sparks. And again, folks, I know there's been a lot of turmoil with the situation, folks, but folks, mercifully, it sounds like it'll be over with, and hopefully, folks, I kind of beg you, welcome Candace back with open arms, folks. I know that as much as you guys want to pile on her, to the point where I've never seen folks to the point where Candace has actually had to block people on Twitter for the stuff that she's been, that she's been pretty much, told to on social media. And I've never seen her do that ever, just seeing that, from a social media specialist, folks, to see that actually happen for the first time and probably ever. There's a lot going on that, obviously is a lot going on where, obviously things are starting to cross that line, folks. And again, Amy Crawford, I believe, said this a while back. I know that she was a bit skeptical about Parker coming back, but she did say, though, if and when she does come back, she will be welcome with open arms. So hopefully that once it happens, that it will happen, and that once it happens, it'll be the end of the story. And again, folks, but once more again, a video sent to me today from the ESPYs yesterday. Candace Parker due back to the Sparks during the second half of the season again. We'll be meeting with the Sparks ownership between Penny, Magic, and perhaps Coach Agler, folks, to talk things over. And more than likely, folks, pretty much count on it, Parker, to sign a contract more than likely and to play for the 2015 season for Los Angeles. But again, perhaps, though, folks, and I will say, though, folks, as well, it has crossed my mind, though, ladies and gentlemen, frankly, in a season that looks so bleak, if Parker did sit the whole season, folks, it wouldn't surprise me because and I do see, but I do agree with the folks that again, right at this point in time, if things look bleak, there may not be a need for her to come back this season, but if her heart is content to come back and play, I know that she's been working out. She has been working out, folks. She's been posting videos and photos of her workouts on social media. So it appears to me, folks, her heart is content to come back and playing at least this season. So we'll see what happens. But again, folks, what I can tell you, but again, Candace Parker scheduled to meet with Sparks ownership and GM Penny Toller sometime after the All-Star break to perhaps to negotiate a contract. And again, Candace Parker, more than likely, folks, to play this year with the LA Sparks for the remainder of the 2015 season. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick timeout. When we do come back, we'll have the one-man show of record, the guy with the petition, coming up next, folks. I will tell you and give you my take, folks, about why the WNBA television still is not working, folks, after 3 years of record growth. I'll tell you, folks, about that, and also, folks, explain more as to why the Sparks have been blacked out the past couple of days on local television. WNBA television talk is the petition topic on TG WTP coming up next year, folks, on LAS 365. More to come out of this, so please do not go away. Come back and see me in a few minutes.